obviously we've seen so many different companies emerge in the fintech era, and then we have the crypto era, of course, and maybe Kudona somewhere in between, right? But what was the sort of the problems you want to tackle and why you went to the finance sector? Because there were an app initially that, of course, we have pivoted right now. But what is the story on how you or why you found the finance space so interesting from a European perspective? Because there are some macro trends, of course, in Europe that makes it very interesting to look at.
Absolutely. I think we chose this space because money matters, right? It's such a stupid thing to say, but everything in life that's the world we have created. Everything in this world is connected to money, and when you innovate in that space, it is something that affects everyone. And I think especially the financial industry that has had so much negative press for the first almost 20 years of this millennia, is something that is definitely ripe for disruption and ready for innovation. And bringing the toolkits of entrepreneurship, of speed of innovation to an industry that is mostly focused on large, slow, and old school institutions, aka banks, it's something that makes a lot of sense, because if you touch the lives of so many people, you can also improve the lives of so many people. And for both my brother and I, as well as Kelvin, our third co-founder, and I think many people working here, it matters whether we have a purpose in what we're doing or not. So just, building the next colorful socks company or whatever can also be fun. But it's just not as impactful as if you have a product that can actually make people's lives better. That is why we started out with our first iteration of this, which was an ETF savings product. And now the second iteration, which is Kudona, where you just store your money, have daily access to it, and get interest on that, positive interest right now, 3.8%, which is much, much more than you get in traditional financial markets with overnight or fixed term deposit accounts, not to mention regular investment products that are currently down, very much down, and the ECB giving us negative interest forever. So I think it matters. I think it matters to have good financial products accessible to and for everyone, and make the experience 2022. It has to be digital. It has to be fast. It has to be accessible 24/7, 365. It has to be understandable. It has to make sense, and it has to help people. And I think that is where we can bring a lot of our experience together with what the market is looking for.
It's also interesting when talking about finance and also just the concept of simplicity, because sometimes, finance can have a very complex background. So it's not necessarily the fact that everybody knows how the bank treat their money, right? It's not common knowledge. So how aware have you been about creating a simple and easy to use product? And this, of course, is a counterbalance in sort of to educate the consumer of what you guys are offering as well. But how has it been to balance to have like a super simple product, but also give the educational piece to sort of inform the customers on the product itself, right? Because that is sometimes a hard balance to strike.
That's a good question, and it's very difficult to answer, because if you look at banks and how they operate, I don't think anyone knows. Sometimes maybe even the banks themselves don't know what they're doing, just because they are so large and they have. I don't know, if you look at Deutsche Bank, for example, which is always the prime example here in Germany, just because of the name of the bank, but also the relevance on a global scale. They have just recently tried to update their IT infrastructure, which is mostly built on 70s technology. And they have, I think, spent roughly 5 billion on upgrading that system to something that is more up to date, more recent. They have given up because they said it cannot be done. Instead, they are now rehiring people that are in retirement and paying them ridiculous amounts of money to keep maintaining that system. I think they're now starting a second attempt. Apparently, there's a guy now heading up their IT department who knows what he's doing, which is great. So maybe they actually stand a chance to get it right this time. But if you just look at that, there is an institution that is so relevant in the world on a global scale in financial markets, and they are sinking 5 billion into upgrading their IT infrastructure just to find out that cannot be done. I think that tells you everything about how ripe this industry is for innovation. So that's just, the banks themselves sometimes don't know what they're doing or how they're operating. Fair enough. And I don't think the key to success is necessarily that every bit, every iteration of the product, every detail of how something works in finance needs to be explained to the consumer. I don't think that is something that most people care about. The key questions that people have about money are more, is this easy to use and is it secure? Like, does it work and can I trust them? That is so much more important because, I mean, in the end, it's the same as with every other business as well. I don't know, you're renovating your apartment and you need to update the pipes. Probably you will not understand completely how all of them are connected and how they work, but you're getting someone to do that for you who for some reason you trust and you have faith that they can do it because they've done it before or because they have references that tell you, yes, he's done it for my house and he's done a really good job. The water is flowing, everything is nice, that works. So I think that is more important than explaining how every single financial product works to the last bit. And that is what we are focusing on as well. Of course, educational content matters, and we try to explain as much as possible. There will always be people who want to deep dive on something. So having materials where you can go back to back and all the way through the product matter. We're, for example, setting up webinars now where people can ask questions to me and I try to answer them. Just because, again, in finance, you want to talk to someone, you want to know there's real people behind it, you want to know they understand what they're doing, and sometimes you want to know how it works in detail. But we believe that the more relevant bits are trust elements. So just having other people reiterate that, yes, this is a good product. Yes, these guys know what they're doing, and ease of use, which is why we have built this beautiful, simple, easy to use app that apparently, so the feedback so far is very easy to use, and that helps.
How hard do you think it is to build that trust in the market when you're starting out, right? Because when people want to place their money, they usually hope to give it to someone they can trust, right? So, but when you start a startup, right, you have to build that trust from zero. So do you know, how do you build that trust initially? Is it just a lot of small things, no silver bullets in terms of trust? And, or how has that been, evaluating it from your end?
Yes, that is the key challenge, and it's virtually impossible to speed up that process. I mean, how do you build trust? You cannot build trust overnight, right? Trust is reputational. Trust is networking effect. So people using it, telling other people about it, saying it's good. They are then telling other people again. It's also things like what we are doing here right now, right? Just two real people talking about it, and with that proving, okay, there is someone behind that, a real human being who hopefully knows what he's talking about. So I think it's a marathon, not a sprint. You cannot build trust overnight. There's no hack for it. Of course, you can, I don't know, produce a couple of reviews or give a couple interviews initially and just have that basic coverage of you to make sure people out there in the world know there is something there. But then it's just a building exercise over months and years that just takes time. And I think you have to accept it.
What excites you the most right now with the Kudona roadmap going forward?
The most exciting thing for us is that we're working with state-of-the-art technology at one of the frontiers that I believe is the most exciting, both in tech and in real-life impact. And we're trying to bring together elements from traditional finance with elements from crypto technology. So we have taken a conscious decision not to go into, I don't know, Bitcoin day trading and these ridiculously crazy crypto schemes that you can also find in other products, because we believe that is not something for the mass market. That is more of a niche, a niche quest for a very select group of people that are interested in doing that. As with every innovation, you have your first adopters, you have people who want to try it, and there are probably two kinds of people in finance: the risk takers and the others. And the risk takers will always go for there is a, I don't know, 200x return on this product. I really have to try it out because surely I'm going to make it. Whereas the rest is just like, okay, this is my money, I want to keep it. Let's find something that's simple and safe and secure, and a little bit of growth is also fine. But the underlying technology, we are in the space of decentralized finance, right? Which already the name carries already that element to it, that we're talking about more fundamental financial technology there. We strongly believe that is the future of finance. So it's not about, I don't know, the hottest coin in town. It's not about Dogecoin and Elon Musk tweeting about it. It's not about YOLOing all your money into this crazy one project that can give you the 200x leverage. But it's more about, what do we believe does the financial industry in 20 years look like? Is it these really large and grand bank buildings with hundreds of people pushing paper and customers having to be there in person and signing that and doing all of those things? Is that necessary, or is there a better way to do it? That is usually the question you're trying to answer when you're trying to innovate, right? Is there a better way to do something? And we believe decentralized finance is the answer to that. Are the existing protocols or the existing coins or the existing even projects working in this space the ones that will be around in 20 years? Who knows? Likely not. But the underlying technology, we believe, is what's going to be there. And as you said, we like to pivot. So we like to keep up with these trends. And if something new is coming up that makes more sense, we'll just shift our focus towards that. But having a solution for our customers where they are at the frontier of innovation in finance, whilst also having a product that is simple and secure, matters to us, because we believe we will matter by sticking with that and keeping to innovate in that space.
I think it's interesting if you talk about decentralized finance, because for many people, it can be a bit hard to get their heads around. But if you think about it more simplistically, like you have seen this trend in media, you've seen it in tourism, with Airbnb, with media, that people sort of get more of the benefits instead of just one large corporations taking the whole pie, right? So maybe that's also a good framework just for people to understand why this DeFi space can be so massive, because at the end of the day, it's about sharing the pie and growing the pie together more as a network instead of one large corporation, right?
Yes, maybe Airbnb is a good example. Even if you look at the initial feedback that they got, where people were like, this is such a stupid idea. Why would anyone want to stay in another person's apartment when they're traveling? I want to go to a hotel where I have all the infrastructure, all of the employees taking care of me, providing breakfast, whatever. And these guys were like, no, people want to feel at home even when traveling. We know now who was right. So I think there's always a lot of skepticism when you're starting out with something that no one has done before, that is new or that is uncommon, maybe as per current beliefs. But the question you have to ask is, do you personally believe that there is a reason for why this can matter? And do you believe that the technology that is there can fix that problem? And we believe that is the case in the DeFi space, because if you look at just market caps right now, crypto, I think currently with markets being down, is valued just under $1 billion. Apple is under a trillion. And Apple is double the size. So if you look at the market cap of one single company being larger than the entire space that is innovating the financial industry, there is likely a chance that this is going to grow over time, because there are so many smart people around the world working in the space, innovating in the space, building solutions that can outperform what banks are currently providing in that space. And I think that is what matters. That is why it is so interesting to be there. It's state-of-the-art technology, is lots of smart people putting their resources to work in that space. And it's adopted by many people in the world, but there are so many more people who can still do that. And again, one company is larger than the entire space there. So I think that is really interesting. And that is one of the key elements why we believe being in the space today, right now, even in the down market, many people say down markets are builders markets. I tend to agree, because all of the not so relevant projects get washed out, right? That is exciting and that makes sense.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching that highlight. If you like this channel, please make sure to subscribe to it. I'll see you later.